The wind howled across the plains like a living thing, carrying dust, old memories, and the echo of lives long forgotten. Out here, the land remembered everything, even when people tried to forget. Before we begin tonight's story, welcome back to the last Cowboy Stories, where the past still breathes beneath the open sky, and the truth of the Wild West is never as simple as legends make it seem. If you listen closely, you might hear the voices that history tried to silence. The ranch sat alone at the edge of the red hills, a weather-beaten house leaning slightly into the wind, as if bracing itself against the weight of years. Jacob Hale had built it with his own hands, plank by plank, after the war took everything else from him. He wasn't a man of many words, and the land suited him that way. The cattle didn't ask questions. The sky didn't demand explanations. Out here, survival was honest, and loneliness was a quiet companion that never left. That morning, Jacob noticed something wrong before he ever saw it. The horses were restless, shifting in their stalls, ears pinned back. Even the old ranch dog refused to go past the cottonwood grove near the creek. Jacob saddled up anyway, rifle slung across his back, more out of habit than fear. He had learned long ago that fear made noise, and noise got you killed. He followed the narrow trail down toward the water, where reeds bent low and dragonflies skimmed the surface. That was when he saw her. She was trapped beneath a fallen tree, its massive trunk splintered but still heavy enough to crush a man. Her dark hair was tangled with dust and leaves, her dress torn and soaked with blood at the hem. For a long moment, Jacob thought she was dead. Then her fingers moved, barely, like the wing of an injured bird. He dismounted slowly, speaking out loud so she would know he was there. His voice was low, steady, the same tone he used with spooked animals. Her eyes fluttered open, sharp with fear despite her weakness. They were dark, watchful, and full of a kind of pain Jacob had seen before, usually in men who had been pushed too far by life. She tried to speak, but only a hoarse sound came out. Jacob crouched near her, careful not to startle her. He could see now that she was Apache, young but hardened by things no one her age should have known. Her wrists were bruised, raw, as if she had been bound. Whoever left her here hadn't meant for her to survive. "I'm going to move the tree," Jacob said. "It'll hurt some, but I won't leave you like this." Her eyes locked onto his, and she shook her head weakly. Her lips trembled as she forced the words out. "Please, don't carry me to bed." The sentence struck him harder than any bullet ever had. Jacob froze, his hands still on the rough bark. He had carried injured men before, laid them in beds so they could die in something resembling peace. But the way she said it, the fear in her voice, told him everything he needed to know. Beds, for her, were not places of rest. They were places of terror. "I won't," he said immediately. "I swear it." She studied his face, searching for lies. Whatever she saw there must have been enough, because her shoulders sagged slightly, and she nodded. It took all of Jacob's strength to free her. He wedged a lever beneath the trunk, inching it up just enough to pull her out. She cried out once, then bit down on her lip so hard it bled. Jacob wrapped his coat around her before the cold could claim her, then lifted her carefully, mindful of her words. Instead of the house, he carried her to the open barn, where sunlight spilled through broken boards, and the smell of hay filled the air. He laid her on a thick bed of clean straw, far from walls, far from doors that could be locked. She watched him the entire time. Jacob cleaned her wounds with water from the well, and tore strips from an old shirt to bandage her leg. She flinched at every touch, but never screamed. That kind of silence came from long practice. When he finished, he stepped back, giving her space. "You're safe here," he said. "No one's going to hurt you." Her laugh was soft, bitter. "No place is safe," she replied. She told him her name was Nayland. She didn't tell him how she ended up beneath that tree, and Jacob didn't ask. Some stories needed time before they could be spoken. Others never could. Days passed slowly. Jacob brought her food, water, and medicine when he could get it. He slept in the house but left the barn door open, so she would never feel trapped. At night, he sometimes heard her crying softly, the sound carried on the wind like a morning song. He never went to her unless she called out. On the 5th night, she did. Jacob found her sitting upright, trembling, her eyes wild with a nightmare she couldn't escape. He stopped a few steps away, letting her see him clearly. "I'm here," he said. "They always said they were helping," she whispered. "They said I should be grateful." Jacob sat down on an overturned crate, keeping his distance. "You don't owe anyone gratitude for your pain," he said. That was when the dam broke. Nayland told him about the trader who promised work and protection, about the journey that never ended where it was supposed to, about the hands that took without asking, and the nights that stole pieces of her she could never get back. She told him about the rope, the beating, and finally the tree, how she had prayed not to be saved, because survival meant more suffering. When she finished, she looked at Jacob, as if daring him to turn away. He didn't. "I don't know how to fix what they did," he said quietly, "but I won't add to it." For the first time since he'd found her, she cried openly. As her leg healed, Nayland grew stronger. She began helping with small tasks, feeding the chickens, mending torn tack. Jacob noticed how she always positioned herself near open spaces, how she never let a door close behind her. He adapted without comment, removing doors where he could, leaving rooms open to the sky. One afternoon, riders appeared on the horizon. Jacob saw them first, and felt the old tension coil in his chest. Men like that rarely brought good news. He told Nayland to stay in the barn, not as an order, but a warning. She didn't argue, but she didn't hide either. The men claimed they were looking for a runaway. Their eyes lingered too long on the barn, on the shadows where Nayland stood. Jacob stepped forward, his rifle visible but not raised. "No one here but me," he said. They smiled the way wolves do. That night, Jacob and Nayland talked by the fire outside the barn. "They'll come back," she said. "I know," Jacob replied. When they did, they found the ranch empty. Jacob had moved Nayland into the hills, to a place his father once used during raids, long before the land was fenced and named. The riders searched for days, but found nothing. Weeks later, Nayland stood on a ridge overlooking the plains. Her leg still ached, but she was free to walk, to choose where she went. "You could stay," Jacob said, "or you could go. I won't stop you." She looked at him for a long time. "You listened," she said. "That matters." She didn't go far. She built a life nearby, close enough to visit, far enough to breathe. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they sat in silence, watching the land heal in its own slow way. Years later, people would tell stories about a rancher who rescued an Apache girl. They would make it sound heroic, clean, simple, but the truth was quieter. It was about a man who stopped when she said no, about a woman who survived because someone finally listened, and about a place where healing didn't begin in a bed, behind closed doors, but under an open sky, where the wind could carry the pain away, one breath at a time. Out here, the West didn't belong to legends. It belonged to those who endured.